Hello and welcome to a passenger seat podcast special episode where today we're doing something a little bit different in between the seasons on the podcast. I'm taking advantage of this gap to do something I had the idea for a little while back. I took inspiration from videos that used to exist and be quite popular a very long time ago on YouTube and a very different section of YouTube that were called kind of what's in my handbag videos, where people would go through all the bits and pieces that they carried around with them. And also from Steph from iDriver Classics, intrigue into kind of the bits and pieces that people will carry with them in their daily drivers that she gets hold of for her review videos. So today I'm going to walk you through some of the bits and pieces that I carry around in Peggy while I'm daily driving her. Some of the stuff in here gets swapped out or switched when I go on longer journeys, but this is kind of the general stuff that's in here pretty much all of the time. On top of that, it's worth noting that this is kind of being recorded in spring. Things have started to warm up, but there is a case of me carrying still a few of the things that I keep in the car from winter, as well as starting to integrate some of the things that I keep in here during the warmer months. So I hope you're going to enjoy today's episode and let me know down in the comments what you find interesting. Okay, so we've moved you around a smidgen so you can see a little bit better in the car, and I'll pull things a little bit closer to you so that you can see them. But we're going to start in kind of the driver's seat and what I can access from here, what I can see from here, and what I can make use of whilst driving. So directly in front of me is obviously my steering wheel, and behind that is one of the two glove boxes. Now Morris Minors are fitted with kind of two glove boxes. There's one here and there's one over on the far side over there. And some of the earlier Morris Minors have doors on both. But that does make it a little bit more difficult for you to get to kind of the stuff that's in front of the steering wheel. So that came off on later models like Peggy. Over in this glove box is a radio and Bluetooth kind of music set that the previous owner fitted in, and that's tucked away there, and the speakers sit down on the parcel shelf, and its kind of antennae is attached to the window over in the far corner over there. So also here in front of me is the spider that I use to hold my phone. It's just a little bendy armed thing. My dad uses them for his phones and stuff in his work cars, and I think I nicked this one off him, to be honest. There might be a bit of that actually, thinking about it. There's a few bits and pieces in here that have come from there. And the reason I have it there is so that I can see the digital speedo that I use on my phone. Peggy's speedo over here isn't that accurate because of her 5-speed gearbox, so I like to have a digital speedo here, or if I've got Google Maps up for navigation, if I don't know where I'm going that well, then that's obviously got the speedo on it, and it's quite easy for me to see that through the big round steering wheel in front of me. Also makes it easy for kind of altering any music and keeping it kind of within my line of sight if I need to. So I'll move that out of the way, and then we can start going through the glove box above the driver's steering wheel. So first off in here we've got two torches actually. This one's been in for a while. It's just kind of your regular little torch, and then also I've popped one of these in. This is what Jamie got me, well, one of the things Jamie got me for my birthday the other week. It is a bendable kind of work light with a few different settings on it, but also it is magnetic and has a little hook on it as well. So I could, if I wanted to, hook it up here to the sun visors. It's quite handy to have in here because if anything happens in the dark or whatever and I want to kind of pop the bonnet and have a look at the roadside in a safe place, then that will make it a little bit easier to do so. But also I haven't got Peggy's interior light working that when you open the doors it comes on. I can get it to come on, but it's a little bit fiddly, and I prefer not to kind of test the plastic if I can. So if I'm looking for something in the car in the dark, then I've got easy access to those 2 torches as well. Next up, we've got some microphone bags with the little lav mics in that I use for the podcast. There'll be a few bits and pieces in here that are in here because Peggy's used not only as a daily driver but also as a regular kind of podcasting studio. So that's kind of the first of those sorts of things. We've got some sunglasses here, easy to kind of get to and access, and I can kind of pull it out, usually pass it to a passenger who can let me swap them, or I can put them on obviously before we start driving. So I've got those. Also got this, which is very old. The eBay listing said that it was World War II. I've no reason to doubt that given the kind of state of the packaging and stuff like that. But what it is just an alternative set of sunglasses that just clip on over my frames like so. Different colours, different alternative that I just keep in here again in case it's a sunny day for driving. So they live in there and are quite handy to get hold of. We've also got some hand sanitizer, self-explanatory, packet of tissues for both myself, but also if I do kind of a longer trip and I want to check the oil, or if I've got any reason to be worried about the oil, it's useful to have a packet of tissues in to be able to wipe your dipstick. So that's cool to have that in there. Kind of a set of things here. We've got a vintage compact mirror so that I can use these emergency lipsticks if I need to. 2 different emergency red lipsticks in case I haven't put one on or haven't remembered to put one in my bag for any kind of touch-ups. Also, sometimes when you go to shows, you're getting up quite early in the morning and you don't necessarily want to put lipstick on really early, so it's good to have that you can put it on when you get to a little bit closer to an event. What else have we got in here? We've got a bottle of perfume, just also red in keeping with everything else in the car. We've got a box of business cards. Some of those are kind of my own business cards, and then some of them are for my local Morris Minor owners branch, so that if I'm out and about locally and I spot another Morris Minor that I don't recognise from the branch, I can let them know. But also it's useful for handing these sorts of things out because when I'm like filming events or taking photos at events, I get quite a lot of questions about kind of what I'm doing, so I can hand these out and let people know. So I keep those in there. I've also got 1 or 2 little stickers for the podcast in there to hand out as and when I need to. What else have we got? Some little bobby pins, more emergency hair fixing this time. Pop those back in there rather than lose them. And then finally in the back here I've got a tiny little tyre pressure gauge. A while back, Peggy had a slow puncture and I was struggling to get hold of just 1 tyre from the tyre people that I was using at the time. I found a kind of better supplier since. So I was just kind of filling the tyre up pretty regularly and using this to just double check if I was concerned about it. The way that it works is you kind of put your pressure valve on this end and then this end pops out accordingly to kind of give you what your PSI and stuff is. It's my dad's. I didn't realise I still had it. He lent it to me and I should probably hand it back. Sorry, Dad. So yeah, that's all that's in the glove box. Also kind of from where I'm sitting, I've got my little Lego figures that you guys have probably seen at the start of the podcast, and my bobblehead that keep me company as I'm driving along. Down here on the heater, we've got some magnets that are made out of pins, and also my air freshener, because it works quite well that when the air is coming through there, it sends the nice smells around the car. Up here we've got the extender that was mentioned in my modifications video, that extends my rear view mirror, and dangling from it I've got a 1940s kind of St. Christopher little charm thing. It's not silver or anything, it's just a metal, but on one side it's got a St. Christopher, and on the other side it's got a vintage like 1940s car, so I like to keep that kind of dangling there as well. Down kind of below the steering wheel on my parcel shelf, I've got a little cloth for demisting the windows. If we've got any kind of misting up happening, it tends to be more of a winter thing than as we're going into the warmer months, but useful for having that. And also a new addition is our cup holders. There's one over on the passenger shelf, over on the parcel shelf on the passenger side, and they just work by kind of clipping over the window. They work a little better if the window is up, and they just kind of clip over like that, and then you can put your hot drink or can or glass of whatever in there. Primarily going to be used when we're stationary, having a little picnic in the car or whatever, but very useful to have. It means that I've got somewhere to put a hot drink or whatever on a longer journey if I need to. So really glad to have found something that works for the Morris Minor, because it's something that I know a lot of people who have dailied Morris Minors have struggled with, and these seem to be doing the job. And that was another well thought out birthday present from Jamie. Right, I'm going to put all of this stuff back in the dashboard, and then show you around another part of the car. Okay, so we've moved out of the car now, and we're going to look in somewhere that you perhaps weren't expecting me to have a look today, and that's under the driver's seat, because I actually use the under the seat set spaces as well to keep a few things in. So, tilting the seats forward, literally as simple as that with a Morris Minor. They just tilt forward. Freaks a few people out who haven't seen something like that before, but yeah, so that's also handy to use the sun visors to just hold the seat there. So under the driver's seat there's not too much. Under the carpet, it's worth noting that there is my block of wood that helps the seat tilt that little bit further forward, that makes driving a little bit more comfortable for me. We've also got a little bit of bunting that I leave in the car, that's got a few vintage cars on it, and happens to be the perfect length to reach from one side of the car inside over to the other side of the car inside, and helps with just decorating her up a little bit when we take her to shows. Makes it feel a little bit special when obviously she's a daily driver. We've also got this kind of camera frame, so I put the camera that I'm recording on at the moment on this when I go to shows. I noticed that after filming at the NEC in November that some of my footage was a little bit shaky, so this is hopefully helping with that at some of the events that I film at there. Also in this bag is an emergency scarf. Sounds ridiculous, but it works for kind of all seasons. If I've forgotten to put a scarf in the car and it's a little colder than expected, I can use it as a scarf. Also, it's primarily a head scarf in case I've done something really nice with my hair, but I want to wind the windows down and have a really nice drive out with the wind going kind of through the car and everything. So that's that. You can also kind of see from this angle that we've got red floor mats in the car, and I'll just tip this chair back again and you can just see them in the front. Peggy's carpets are her original carpets, so to just protect those I've put some car mats in the car, and I liked the red kind of tying in with the accents that I've got throughout the car. Okay, so we're over on the passenger side now, so we're going to have a quick look at kind of what's on the passenger shelf over here, and what's under the passenger seat. Okay, so the first thing I'm reaching in for from the parcel shelf is the camera mount. This is the camera mount I use for recording the podcast. It attaches up on the quarter light when I'm recording an episode, and usually the camera that I'm recording on over here attaches on the little mount stand there, but at the minute I've got this phone mount that I keep in the car as well, in case I want to kind of film a bit of the driving on my phone or whatever for Instagram. But this is kind of a suction pad here that attaches to the window and gets a really quite secure attachment to the window for me to not have to worry about the phone moving about on a recording. We've also, like I said, got the cup holder, and again, a better demonstration for you on this side is it just slotting in just there on that. That's it really for the passenger parcel shelf. Sometimes there'll be drinks and snacks stored there on a longer journey. Down in the footwell is where I keep my crook clock, red matching in with everything else as usual. So that kind of is easily reachable for me when I pull up and park up. It's just a nice bit of extra security, especially when Peggy spends a bit more time in public car parks than most classic cars. Under the passenger seat, we've got a remnant of the winter gloves that I keep in the car just in case I'm driving and the steering wheel is particularly cold, and a little toolbox that I picked up, I think from Sainsbury's, not long after the trip up to the motorist where we were short of pliers, because it's got a set of pliers in it. It's also got some tweezers and some other bits and pieces in there. Not sure how useful those will be in the car, but it's good to kind of have them with me. Most of the rest of the tools are kept in the boot, but that's just kind of living under there. I'm going to reach into the back seats now and pull some of the things that are kept there out as well, so you can see some of those. So first up, we have this little vanity case that spends a lot of time in the car. It's in a vinyl that matches Peggy's blue door vinyls, so I've got a set of 3 cases, but this vanity case stays in the car because it's got things like more emergency business cards, some little kind of mounting things for cameras, a fold-out vintage tripod that's quite handy to have in case I want to take photos on a self-timer or whatever at a show. We've also got in here a map in case Google Maps confuses us, or if we're looking for kind of just a scenic route around that we don't want to use kind of Google Maps for. Also got the little kind of spiel that I put in Peggy's windows at events so that people can kind of read a little bit about her story, and of course the copy of an owner's manual, just so that I've got a bit more hope if something does go wrong at the side of the road, of trying to work out what it might be before I ring the RAC. But fortunately not had to use that too much, and it's also good that it's always in the car when I do want to do anything else as well, that I know where it is. So that's kind of what's in there. Also on the back shelf is where Peggy's picnic blanket lives. It's been mentioned a few times on the podcast, but it is obviously where I sew all of the patches of everywhere that we've been in her, and it's getting quite full, but we've still got plenty of space for lots of adventures. Also are some friendly little toys. That's Peggy Bear, which I kind of was one of the first things I added to the car to keep me company on journeys. And then I've also got these kind of crochet cosplay dolls, as they call them, wearing costumes that I've worn for Peggy's namesake, Peggy Carter. And also I suppose it's worth mentioning the seat covers while we're here. They are a huge part of making Peggy usable as a daily during the summer, because not only are they kind of in keeping with the theme of the car, but they also make the vinyl seats far more bearable within the summer months in terms of trying to avoid sweaty backs. So that's kind of it for the kind of main cab of the car. We're going to move over to the boot now and show you what's in there. Okay, so we're over at Peggy's boot, so we're going to go through the things that I keep in her boot now, so let's open it up. So Morris Minor saloons have really quite a lot of good boot space, but as you can see at the minute it's reasonably full. What we've got down the bottom here is her spare tyre and all the kind of appropriate parts if I would need to swap a tyre over. So wheel removers and there's a jack over there and also some gloves to try and keep my hands a little bit clean. Also got a spare jerry can of fuel. Peggy's fuel gauge is reasonably accurate, but I like to keep one in the car just in case I can't find any E5 when I'm out on an adventure and I'm a bit worried about what's kind of left in the tank. Under there, further back, that I'm not going to drag out at the moment, is also a can of oil and a bottle of water, just so that those can be topped up as well at any point. Moving now to kind of what's on this top shelf, we have got a pretty new addition actually, another birthday present this time from my parents, a set of show plates, one for the front, one for the back of Peggy. So these are done in the same style as her front plates, and they're designed to just hook over her existing plates. My mum's idea and my dad's execution there, so that if I'm at a show or whatever I can put these on, but also it's a great kind of thing to have for if I'm out and about and I'm taking photos, and I'd quite like to put those over the plates. So pop those out for now. Also in here, again, probably going to come out in the next sort out of the boot, is my big winter coat that I keep in the back here. If I'm not already wearing it, it's good to have it in case we break down and we end up at the side of the road. It's useful for having, it's a really long, thick wool coat that I inherited that is very good, essentially a huge great blanket in case we were ever stuck at the side of the road for a long cold amount of time. We've also got a set of jump leads. Peggy's battery is reasonably good at the moment, but we keep them in here just in case. Also, you never know when you might be somebody's hero with a set of jump leads in the boot of your car. Then we've got our 2 deck chairs on the bottom here, left over from the young members meet at the earlier part of the month. They'll probably come out when I start going back to work in her, but they'll be in the garage ready to pop in whenever we go to an event. Alongside this, inside this beach towel made little bag, is a table. This is the tabletop. It's a tin sign sunk into a table that has screw and legs, and obviously matches Peggy, and made up by my dad for Christmas, I think it was, and great for taking to shows. And I've got a bit of plastic in there with the legs that you can kind of cover over, so that if you've got hot drinks or whatever, you don't ruin the top of the table. Always gets a lot of compliments and people coming up and talking, and also it's got little hooks on the back, so if I want to hang it up in the garage I can do that. Also some useful breakdown stuff, an emergency triangle that was an impulse buy the last time I went to Halfords and I saw that it was on offer. A very dirty high-vis jacket, again, so that if I'm doing a tyre change or whatever at the side of the road I can be spotted. Then we've got, lastly, these, well actually no, not lastly, these 2 bags that I keep in the back here because they kind of match colour wise, but one of them is filled with cleaning products if I want to kind of detail her when we arrive at a show, or if she's kind of caught a load of flies on the way to somewhere and I want to take a picture, so I want to rub them off. Came in quite handy when I wanted to take a photo in the reflection of her hubcaps the other day. I could just rub those over and much improve the photo there. This one is got tools, cable ties. This has got some spanners all wrapped up in it in a towel so that they don't jingle too much. And then a bag of spark plugs, nuts, etc. And a can of WD-40 and a spare accelerator spring just in case anything goes wrong. Again, I'm going to be able to just swap it over the next time. Some of that stuff I don't expect to probably need, but I know now that it's something that can go, and if I'm at a show and somebody else needs it, I know that I've got them in my bag so that I can help somebody else out, like people have helped me out at shows. We've also got the starter handle, again, just in case, but also great for kind of photos and stuff like that. And finally, packet of NEC classic car top trumps. Very Becca, but you never know when you're sat at a show and you want to challenge someone to a game of top trumps. So they usually actually are in the suitcase, but they seem to be floating around in the boot at the moment. So that's kind of everything that's in Peggy's boot. Okay, so that's it for this special episode of the Passenger Seat Podcast. I hope you really enjoyed having a nosy about in Peggy and seeing some of the bits and pieces that make daily driving her as easy as it can be. I really enjoy daily driving her, so hopefully some of these bits and pieces might be useful for you if you're thinking about daily driving your classic at least through the summer this year. If you've got any thoughts on things that you think I should have in the car to help with keeping her going, then I'd love to hear those down in the comments section. If you've enjoyed what you've watched here today, then hopefully you are subscribed to the YouTube channel and you're looking forward to season 3 of the podcast. It's coming along really soon, and we've already started some work on some of the bits and pieces that will be part of that, and we've got some really exciting stuff for you. So hopefully you're looking forward to that, and we'll see you again really soon on the channel. But in the meantime, drive safely and happy motoring.